Hello, everyone. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and the Evolution Revolution. And we are reading The Storm Before the Calm, one of Neil Donald Walsh's books. And we are going to get right into it. And Angela is going to start reading, unless that was Linda that just joined us.
It is.
Oh, well, then, Angela, you can do a sigh of relief.
I mean, if Angela wants to read, though, she's welcome to.
I'm happy either way, Linda. I really don't mind. As you're here, you may as well. I'm just looking to see how many pages.
Well, if you want
Up to you.
Angela, why don't you go ahead and start and let Linda get herself together.
Linda Cecil.
Yeah. Okay. Whenever
Indeed.
You're ready.
Okay. So we're on page 41, conversation 7. Questions that very few people are willing to answer. Okay, the daring stuff starts now. I offer here a series of inquiries that it is going to take courage to engage. It will take courage because the only answers people can offer are unsettling, no matter what those answers might be. The questions themselves are just simply upsetting. Unless they're not. They're upsetting to folks who don't want things changed or even challenged. They're not to those who are now ready to say, enough already with the way things are. There's got to be another way. Okay, I assume you're all in because you're still here. Nice. I mean, really, nice going. The greatest revolution. We're talking here about questions and answers that could spark the biggest revolution ever to hit this planet. And that's saying a lot. A search on Wikipedia under the word revolutions brings up a virtually endless catalogue of uprisings, beginning with the popular revolt in the Sumerian city of Lagash that deposed King Lugalanda and put the reformer Urukagina on the throne in 2380 BC, ending with the revolutions that overturned governments in the Arab world in 2011. Let me just give you part of this list, just to take a quick look at how people have been responding on this planet to how they've been governed. We have seen literally hundreds of uprisings and revolutions across our history, including the fall of the Roman Empire, the first of the wars of Scottish independence, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Revolution in India, the Boer Revolt, revolutions all over South America, the European revolutions of 1848, the revolutions in modern Hungary, in Yugoslavia, in Haiti, the dissolution of the Soviet Union by 1991. Take my word for it, this is a tiny proportion of a list that goes on and on and on and on. We've been revolting since the beginning of our gathering together in clans and tribes and then nations. What is this all about, do you think? What do you imagine has been causing all of this? Why do you think it never ends? And what do you think could make it end? I can tell you what it's about, and I can tell you also how to make it end with one final revolution. Indeed, that's what the storm before the calm is all about. What has been causing all of this for so long is that human beings have been clear for a very long time that the way life has been constructed on this planet by those in power is not the way it was intended to be lived. And so, since forever, for centuries and millennia, people on every spot on the globe have been agitating. They've wanted a new way of life, a new way of being human, a way that they know it was intended for them to be human. Their agitations have continued right up to this present day. Even as this is being written, people in many places on Earth are still saying no to the way things are and are demanding change. They're prepared to die for it. They have been dying for it. They're dying right now as you're reading this. But we are ready now as a global community for that dying to stop. We've had it, we're done. There's got to be a better way. We wonder Why don't those who seek to govern us get it? But they don't. So now we're seeing what I have been calling here the overhaul of humanity. This is a revolution that will not ask people to die, but will simply ask people to inquire. It will invite people to make inquiries of themselves and others that could change everything in such a huge way that finally future violent revolutions may never again be necessary. So let's look at these 7 dangerous questions. I like to place them into 2 groups. For me, they're easier to grapple with that way. So I've divided them into what I call the 3 persistent questions and the 4 fundamental questions of life. These are not I've gotcha questions designed to trap or trick anyone into anything. They are genuine inquiries being asked, and you must ask them sincerely, with purity of heart, not out of righteousness, not out of argumentativeness. And they are placed here gently, softly, for I recognize that most human beings, for all the reasons given earlier, are not comfortable discussing these things. The way life has been constructed on this planet by those in power is not the way it was intended to be lived. The power structure on our planet is very happy about that, because real honest-to-goodness exploration of these questions could lead to real honest-to-goodness examination of what we're doing right now on the planet. And that could just possibly result in a real honest-to-goodness shift in the way we're doing it and in how we choose to be human. Should that happen, as far as the power structure is concerned, the game is over. Life as we have been living is history, and this will be the end of it. The 7 simple questions. The following inquiries made in the depth of our own soul and used by us to invite others into their own soul searching could change the world. The 3 persistent questions. Is it possible that 6.9 billion people can all claim to want the same thing, peace, security, opportunity, prosperity, happiness, and love, and be singularly unable to get it? Question 2. Is it possible that there is something we do not fully understand about life, the understanding of which would change everything? 3. Is it possible that there is something we do not fully understand about ourselves, about our own life and its purpose, the understanding of which would shift our reality and alter our experience for the better forever? These are powerful questions. They deserve answers. They at least deserve being asked. Yet are great numbers of people asking them? Are politicians? No. Presidents and prime ministers, kings and heads of state? No. Religious figures? No. Educators? Not many. Military generals and admirals? No. Leaders of business and industry? No. Ordinary people at their dinner table? Well, yes, possibly. Beginning now. Perhaps beginning now. Ordinary people like you and I will now be asking these questions all over the planet. And when we finish asking the first 3, we'll then move to the 4 fundamental questions of life. Number 1, who am I? Number 2, where am I? Number 3, why am I where I am? And number 4, what do I intend to do about that? I do not believe that one can ignore these questions and rapidly evolve. None of us can. We must end any personal confusion we may have around these questions. There are many other questions in life, but these are foundational. Or we will go through our days and nights having no idea what we're doing or why we're doing it. This is the situation with most people on the earth today, and that is the reason why the world is in the condition that it's in. I did not move forward in my life until I answered the 4 fundamental questions of life. And by the way, I answer them daily, sometimes during the day as events transpire. Used in this way, these questions are not only informative, they are transformative. And the first of these four is the real key. It unlocks everything. It invites us to look deeply at the biggest mystery, the mystery of our own identity. By that, I don't mean, of course, our name. I mean our identity in the cosmos. There is no right answer to this question. There is only the answer you give. The second question seems simple, but its answer may not be. Where am I? Where do you conceive of yourself as being? That is, what is this place in which we experience our existence? How do you conceive of it? How do you hold it in your reality? I'm speaking here of how you hold it conceptually, yes? I'm not talking about your physical description of this place. I live on planet Earth. It is the third rock from the sun, etc. I'm referring to your conceptual understanding of this space. Is it a place of learning, a school? Do you experience it as a place of testing, an examination room? Is it a place of proving or contesting or competing, like a giant racetrack or an athletic field, where some are winners and some are losers? Do you have no conceptual reference point for this space and truly conceive of it only as a physical location in a larger system of planets whizzing around a star? What is this place in which we find ourselves? The mind begs to know, where am I? Again, there is no right answer to this question. Yet, until I gave it some answer, I have no conceptual framework within which to hold my life's experience. And absent such a framework, those experiences themselves felt essentially meaningless, no different from those of a fly or an ant. I felt that I was simply a more sophisticated life form. I had a life expectancy, and barring unforeseen circumstances, I knew I would be here for X amount of time. But what is this place? And then the next question looms: why? Why am I where I am? Why am I not somewhere else? Is there a somewhere else? What is the purpose of my being in this time and place? Is there a purpose? Who would give it one? I don't know how a person advances in their evolution without giving some thought and eventually some sort of answer to these questions. Many people respond to these questions with a curt, I don't know, and let it go at that. I couldn't do that, and I don't encourage any true students of life to do that. If they truly don't have an answer, I encourage them to create one. That is, decide what their answer is out of pure intention. In this way, they live their life from intention rather than living their life by default. A life lived by default is a life lived according to the default responses of the majority of people on the earth. I hope that none of you ever again chooses to live your life like that. Most of us have lived at least portions of our lives in this way, but we never have to again if we do not want to. The last inquiry. This leads to the final question, not just the final question in this series of 7, but what could be, metaphorically, the final important question of life. Having given your answers to all other questions, you're invited to decide, what do you intend to do about that? This is always the final question in life, in every situation, in every circumstance, in every moment that our experience presents. The question always and forever is, what do I intend to do about that? Life proceeds out of your intentions for it. This is the fuel that drives the engine of creation in your life. It is important to understand that life is nothing but energy. It is energy organized. And who does the organizing? We do. Surprisingly, the answer is us. Life is pure energy that circles back to itself. That is, life is a self-fueling, self-sustaining, self-determining, and self-creating process. It depends on itself, relies on itself, and looks to itself to tell itself what the next expression of itself shall be. This is true universally, it is true globally, it is true nationally, it is true locally, and it is true individually. It is merely a matter of proportion. And so we see the universe deciding about itself in this way, our planet deciding about itself in this way, our nation deciding about itself in this way, our own city or community deciding about itself in this way, and our own person deciding about itself in this way. Life informs life, about life through the process of life itself. Life's information creates life in formation, and at the most personal level, your information creates you in formation. You are constantly forming and reforming yourself, shaping and reshaping yourself, creating and recreating yourself anew. Indeed, the function of life is to recreate yourself anew in each golden moment of now, in the next grandest version of the greatest vision ever you held about who you are. That's all of it in a nutshell. That's what's going on here. All of humanity is engaged in this process. We are doing it politically, we are doing it economically, we are doing it culturally, we are doing it racially, we are doing it socially, we are doing it sexually, we are doing it spiritually. This is all we are doing, and we're not doing anything else. This is what God is doing. God is recreating itself anew in the single and only moment called now. And life is God doing this. Life is God expressing itself in an endless multiplicity of forms. You are one of the forms of God. You are, all of you, God's information, and thus God's information. I don't know how a person advances in their evolution without giving some answer to these questions. Points I hope you'll remember. The 7 simple questions are unsettling. That is their power. Revolutions are a way of life on this planet. One final revolution is all we will need to end such a societal upheaval forever. Action I hope you will take. Read the 7 simple questions over and over until you can recite them verbatim. Ask yourself these questions and search deeply within your soul for your answers. Write your answers in a notebook so that you may be very clear about what your responses are, and so that you may refer to them over time, such as a year from now, to see what, if anything, has changed in your perceptions. Be prepared to offer the answers you have come up with as you explore these questions with others. End of conversation 7.
Thank you, Angela.
You're welcome.
Anybody like to start the conversation? Well, that's a nice backdrop, Mohan.
This is so relevant to what's going on now.
Yes. I was thinking that myself.
I think I said this in a previous call, but the Scottish Government was asking people for their suggestions on how we go forward after lockdown, what we do differently. And then I hear a lot of people talking and saying, well, they should do this, they should do that, they should do the other. But this cuts through all of that, and it says we have to actually speak out and take our own action. Over.
I think it's awesome that the Scottish government, and I know when you mentioned it before, I said it then too, that they're asking people instead of just sitting there edicting like most governments do, you know.
It's good, but actually nobody's standing up there and answering it now.
So that's the next part then. The need to actually imagine what we want to be, you know. We're so used to handing it over to the people who hand out the edicts and just sort of doing what they say, and this really demands us all to answer these questions for ourselves, you know. If Ann Derby were here, she would say something about that we have to sort of step up and take action. I think she would.
Yeah.
Angela, you're reading from the book, not from the Kindle book, right?
Yes, I'm reading from the book, the paperback.
Did it say the 7 simple at the end of that chapter? Did you read the 7 simple simple questions are unsettling, that is their power, and revolutions are a way of life on this planet, one final evil forever. Was that from the book as well? No. That's
Yes.
from the Kindle book. Oh, you read that?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
I read that, yeah.
Yeah, so he's suggesting a revolution, isn't he? Which is what we've always done in the past to get change. Change is not going to happen without some sort of fight. That's a suggestion. I'm not saying I'm saying that. I'm just saying that's a suggestion. Are we all prepared to fight for our rights? Ooh.
We're going to have to fight in a different way.
I don't use the word
No,
fight.
it's not a good word. What would you say? You're muted. You're muted.
No, I'm not. Create.
No, Anne's waving. Anne, you're muted.
And yeah.
And I had to put you on mute because we were having some major feedback, but take yourself off mute now so that you can talk. You're still on mute. No, you're on mute still.
Well, the organizer can. Who's the organizer? You can unmute her, I think.
You have to send her something to unmute since you muted her.
I found it.
Okay.
Here we go.
Great.
Got it?
I just did it at the same time.
Yay. Where are we in the book as far as the chapter and the page? Where are we on this one?
Conversation 7, page 41, as we've just read.
Conversation 7, page 41. Thank you. I wanted to share with all of you that last Sunday on Father's Day, my mother went to meet my dad, and she left us at 98. She took her last breath and went peacefully. I had the opportunity to do incredible healing with her, where we actually went to God and she asked God to lay her to rest, and she was just really ready to go. And Friday, 2 days ago, we buried her. And no matter how much time you have with your mother, it's always a great loss. And yes, for the living so long in here was the time that we got to share and the moments of intimacy that we would have never ever had God not made things the way that he turned it, how everything happened. And if it's okay, and I have a minute, I want to share what I shared at the funeral, just a piece of it, which was that my mother and I had lots of talks, and I would talk to her about this book club and the topics of the book. I would talk to her about other books, and I go to the University of Spiritual Healing, and I would talk to her about these things which were way beyond her understanding. But what I did was different. I asked everybody to go into their hearts and to close their eyes and to feel Mom's presence and to feel where she lived in their hearts. And I said that if she was here, this would be what she would want us to know. And I'd like to share that with you. If I can pull it up. Here we go. I think so. Love is the only answer. In every breath, sorry about this, okay. In every breath I take, love is always there. Throughout any personal encounter, love is always here. Sorry, love is always here. No matter what comes together or whatever is pulled apart, love is always here. In your greatest moment of achievement or even your darkest hour of uncertainty, love is always here. Whether in the aftermath of tragedy or in the presence of your highest triumph, love is always here. When love is flowing, inspired, and harmonious, and even if it's frustrating, annoying, painful, or inconvenient, love is always here. When you feel alone or unsupported, love is always here. No matter what you understand and despite what you have yet to figure out, love is always here. Despite your thoughts, regardless of what you choose or how you feel, love is always here. No matter what has been done to you or whatever you believe has been done, you've done to others, love is always here. May these words and their transmission help all of you find the relief, peace, and joy that you always hope to find. In these turbulent times, may you realize, awaken, and know who you are and why you are here. May you live with passion and joy, with the knowledge of how much you are loved and how much you are blessed. And most important, may you always remember the love and good wishes I hold in my heart, always and forever, for all of you. Oh, my love, Lucille.
It was very beautiful. Thank
It's
you
good.
for sharing.
Beautiful, Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
My mom was the most remarkable, amazing person. She went from someone who was my greatest nemesis to being one of my best friends. I see you.
Did you say, Anne, she was 98 years old when she passed?
98.
Well, that's pretty good, huh? She's had a good innings.
Yeah, and she, I think the lack of putting her in isolation and stuff like that, it was her time. Her body she surrendered. She truly surrendered, and she walked. She really was ready. People to walk home. I got to walk my mother home. Literally. What a gift.
It's beautiful, and thank you for reading that.
I would like to share something that connects to what you shared, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, regarding dying, because I have had many people dying in my close environment. As you know, my daughter died 17 years ago, and my mother was she should 1 month before her 99th birthday.
Wow.
And I took care of her for 40 years, and we traveled to India. We did everything, all spiritual work, all books, everything. She studied Vedic literature and everything. She could come over. She said to many, I follow Bima as a dog. She did whatever I did. And we had this listening circle, so we were talking and listening to each other. So I learned to know her after she was, because my father died when I was 14, so she became a widow early. She was only 45. But then she remarried twice, and it didn't work out. So she was alone, and then she moved, and she stayed with me and my kids and followed me. Where I moved, she moved also. But the day when she lay down and said, now I am on the way. Okay, I said, how does it feel? Unusual. And that was her last word. And that was interesting to see in her funeral, because there were hundreds of people coming, because she has been with my generation so much. So there were so many around her. So I think she died in a very happy state. And so did my daughter, even if she was only 33. She came into these other dimensions. So I think dying, and I learned that the sadness is when we close the love, because we don't think we can love the person because the person died. No, why? It's when we close our hearts from love that we suffer so much from it. But why shouldn't I love my mother and my daughter and those people who have died? Why should my love close down? So that was one thing I wanted to share. But I want to say one thing more. And that's about, because I very often wake up I go into deep dreams, and then I wake up and I get some answers. I can ask questions in the dreams or before I go to bed. And one question was about why is it as it is on planet Earth? And I woke up, it's quite recently, I got the answer that we are here to see, as human beings, we're here to learn what happens when we separate ourselves from each other. We are here to see, it's a learning to see what's happening. And when we have seen it enough we'll stop that life and we will connecting instead of separate. So we will identify with the souls instead of identify with the bodies. And it was so clear, yeah, that's true. I just wanted to share that because it reminded me of that. Oh, thank you.
I think the thing about connection, I've never felt the need more. In the Jewish religion, you usually sit shiva for 7 days, and after the funeral, leaving the cemetery and having everybody get in their cars and go separate ways, and having it be only 16 were allowed to come in the chapel, but they televised it all over the world. And my brother has businesses in Brazil and Abu Dhabi and Afghanistan. I don't know. He's all over the world, and so the funeral was broadcast. What I really wanted to say is that the idea of how much we need to touch and be connected is greater now than ever before. So I missed like not being able to sit around.
I've lost sound.
I have too.
Yeah, for me.
It's come back.
Well,
And we seem to have lost you.
she dropped.
Is she back? Maybe her internet's gone off.
Yeah.
What's clear about both of those stories is that there was no fear whatsoever. It was like an acceptance of what is when they decided to pass on. And that's nice. So Bima, I wanted to ask you, did your mom, was she happy? Was she content? Was she okay? Did she know that she was going and she was happy?
Yeah, she wanted to go. She said to me some months before that, please ask God to take me home because I don't want to be here anymore. And because she couldn't walk, she had broken her hip 2 years earlier, and she used to walk with in the forest and so on, and she couldn't do that anymore. And she couldn't do what she normally, but she was very open, and she meditated into her last breath. Meditation was her life. Since she learned to do it from me. I taught her to meditate, and I took her on another. She was Christian from the beginning. She was an organist in church. And then she went to me, we went to India. Actually, she was a Scientologist for many years together with me, and we left that, and then we went to India, and she learned about, I mean, she did so many things, and she had a fantastic life. And I think, and so suddenly she felt, I'm finished, I am ready to go. So I think,
left.
Yeah, and that day when she just lay down and said, "No, I am on the way." And I said, "Okay, how does it feel?" Unusual. I think it's a very good way to end. And then she didn't say anything more. That was the end of her life. And my daughter also died very peacefully, even if she was only 33, because she came into these dimensions and she said, I'm not afraid of dying. I mean, she said, that's not because my life continues. It's worse for you who have to stay. And to leave her 3 kids, that was the worst thing she could ever imagine, because children that were left or not taken care of was the worst thing she could ever happen. She took care of so many kids, my friends' kids, her brothers, and all this. And suddenly she had to leave 3 small kids. They were 2, 4, and 6 years old. But she was in such a state of, she was like this. And I just read in a book that people have seen, there is a light stepping out of the head. And when I was sitting, looking into her eyes when she died, you could see this energy going away. And my son who sat beside me, he saw the same. But she was in a field of peace, and it was fantastic. So what to do? I mean, life and death are so close. So my mother died peacefully, my daughter died peacefully. That's how it was. I hope I will do it too. That's my intention. I will decide, I want to go into meditation and sit. When it's time, I want to go into meditation and leave. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. When my mother died, she was been about 15 or 16 years now. But the one thing she told us kids, and there were 7 of us, she said, hey, and I'm keeping everybody on mute unless you're talking. So she said, I won't die with you kids in the room. So if you want me to go, you want to allow me to go, you guys need to quit hovering over my bed like a death watch. She goes, because I won't do it while you're in here. And honest to God, probably 6 months later, we'd all left the bedroom, or she was at the hospital. We'd all left the hospital room because the nurse said, she's not going anywhere today. I'm just going to sponge bathe her and change her nightgown. And we all left. And we were just downstairs waiting, and everybody's phone started ringing. By the time we got back upstairs, she'd gone. And my sister, one of my sisters said, Mom, you just had to be a control freak right down to the end. But my mom said she was not going with us kids as an audience. And I think from my mother's perspective, it was the last thing you want to do is hurt your kids, make them sad. And my mom didn't want to be there for that part. And so for her, she just walked off deeper into the forest in the arms of my father. So it all turned out well, but it's an interesting thing how when it's somebody's time, and Neil would definitely underscore this, they leave in the manner in which they want to. So that's interesting. Now, getting back to
Your sound is off now, Nanette.
You're muted.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. Okay, Ann, are you back on?
Yeah,
Okay. Did you want to finish what you were saying, or were you finished?
no, I'm okay. Internet went down, so I went to my iPad.
Okay.
So
All right.
keep going.
Anybody else want to add something? Okay, let's move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 8. And Angela or Linda, I'm not sure who's reading.
I'm happy to take a break here.
I can read.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're on conversation number 8. Don't you think someone should be talking about this? Okay, we're on our way. These questions are guaranteed to perk up ears in any group. Perk up ears is one thing, change the world is another. Is that what this whole thing is all about? I've stuck with you all this way so that you could tell me, go out and have some conversations about 7 questions? That's it? I sure was expecting more than that. Well, I don't blame you for having those thoughts. It doesn't seem like much of a solution to the problems at hand, does it? But can I tell you something? It's conversations. Little conversations that start big revolutions. And what we're talking about, and we are talking about here, the conversation of the century. It's conversations that change people's minds and help people make up their minds. And conversations around these trenchant questions could ignite a global movement, generating enormous social developments that really could change the world. The impact of a simple dialogue. Let me share something here from Margaret J Wheatley, author of Turning to One Another, Simple Conversations to Restore Hope to the Future, 2002. This is a globally known consultant and organizational behavior. She received her doctorate from Harvard University, holds an MA in systems thinking from New York University, and has worked on every inhabited continent in virtually every type of organization. In other words, Meg Wheatley knows her way around. Here's what she says. There is no more powerful way to initiate significant social change than to start a conversation. Close quote. Wow, I couldn't have paid her to say something better suited to make that point I've been making here. In a 2002 article in Reader, Ms. Wheatley observes that, quote, true conversation is a timeless and reliable way for humans to think together. Before there were classrooms, meetings, or group facilitators, there were people sitting around talking. We can take courage from the fact that this is a process we all know how to do. We can also take courage in the fact that many people are longing to converse again. We're hungry for a chance to talk. People want to tell their stories and are willing to listen to yours. We are awakening an ancient practice, a way of being gathered that all humans intimately understand. There is no more powerful way to initiate significant social change than to start a conversation. Change doesn't happen from someone announcing the plan. Change begins from deep inside a system when a few people notice something they will no longer tolerate, or when they respond to someone's dream of what's possible. That is precisely to the letter what the conversations movement is all about. You know something? We did that in the 60s. We were very serious in those days. We were thinking of our children. We were concerned about the planet. We were doing sit-ins. We rallied together. We marched. We were thinking 7 generations ahead. We talked and talked and talked. But it feels like we've actually gone backwards from then. At least then we could have a conversation. Today it feels as if there's less tolerance, less acceptance, less willingness to even respectfully listen to an opposing point of view, more ugly division, more demonizing by those who disagree. The peace and love generation tried, and where did that get us? There absolutely is more polarization in society today than ever before, but that's the whole point being made here. What you did in the 60s led to this. Oh, great. So it's our fault? No, it's to your credit. You and many others in the 60s generation helped to bring about the end of an era. Polarization is the natural result of that. It is the signal that the era is actually coming to an end. This ending of the era may not have happened as fast as you would have liked 40 years ago, but make no mistake, that was the impetus that got the snowball rolling downhill. And now we have an avalanche. Eras have always ended with the emergence of the sharpest divisions ever between one point of view and another, between yesterday's ideas and tomorrow's hopes. Because it is at the end of an era that those who cannot let go of our old cultural story feel the most threatened, and so hold on most tightly. So yes, many of us older folks did talk in the 60s. We sat around in circles and gabbed our heads off, sometimes until the sun came up. And thus began a 50-year shift in humanity's thinking. It takes a long time to turn a big ship around. Humanity couldn't have done it any faster because it didn't have the tools of amplification and the gluification we have today. We couldn't make our words heard or stick. We didn't have Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and MySpace. We didn't have emailing and texting and Googling. The entire social networking apparatus was used in 2011 to amplify and gluify individual conversations, resulting, as I have already noted, in the total changing of governments of entire countries. Such powerful and widespread activization and mobilization would have been utterly impossible in the 60s. But now our little conversations can get big. Our community-based conversations can go global. And we have even more people joining with us. We have younger ones. We have the folks in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. Now imagine all of us getting in on the act. And imagine each person in community-based discussion groups going home, getting on their computer and sharing with their social networking community all that they've just heard and explored. Suddenly, a conversation with 4 or 6 people can turn into a conversation with 400 or 600. What we did in the 60s was a good start. It was the beginning of the beginning. But what is going on now is the beginning, capital B. We see this, we can feel the momentum. And so the goal of the conversations movement is to engage 250 million people in the conversations of the century within 3 to 5 years. As I said, no reach on that scale could have been envisioned by anyone but major television networks and print media moguls in the 60s. Today, the power of mass communication has been harnessed by the masses themselves, and that is the difference. Also, we didn't have the 7 simple questions. But do you really think that a simple invitation to have a conversation, even in this day and age of electronic connection, can draw 250 million people into a dialogue? If Facebook can attract 500 million to talk about what they had for breakfast, half that number can surely be motivated to talk about things that actually matter. All it will take to rewrite our cultural story is the reaching of critical mass and the energies around the idea. We have to reach a certain level in the number of people who are sufficiently interested in their own lives and in humanity's future to spend time exploring what we all believe and then propose results, even that we don't like the results we've produced so far. I'm impressed with the words of the late Robert Kennedy. Quote, "And if our times are difficult and perplexing, so are they challenging and filled with opportunity. It is not enough to understand or to see clearly. There are those who look at things the way they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." Instead of exploring what we all believe, shouldn't we be living what we believe? No, the problem is not that people have not been living what they believe. The problem is that they have been. That's a pretty strong statement. Well, people hold some pretty strong beliefs. Chief among them, the belief that you are separate from God, that we are separate from each other, that there is not enough of what we need to be happy, that we have to compete with each other in order to get enough, or grow the economy in order to produce enough, or that there is something we all have to do to earn our right just to take up space on the planet, to speak our mind, to have our share, to give our gift, and most of all, to be with God in heaven. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. And it all stems from those first two thoughts, that God is separate from us and that we are separate from each other. Well, of course God is separate from us. What do you think? That God is the same as we are? Sorry, but that's kind of muddled thinking that creates what you call the problems in the world today. I had this actual conversation on talk radio recently. I responded. We seem to have a different view of who and what God is, you and I. I'm sure we do. You think God is something outside of yourself. And I am saying that God and you, God and all of us, are one. And I'm saying that the idea that God is separate from us is at the top of the list of beliefs that cause humanity misery. How? How does the belief that God is great, God is good, cause humanity misery? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to suggest that God is not great or God is not good. I simply said God is not separate from us or other than us. But that's the same thing as saying God is not great, because if the way we are is the way God is, that doesn't sound very great to me. So are you telling me that this is as great or as good as God gets? Is that it? God is not other than us, so we are the God that we're supposed to worship? That's a tough one. I don't think I can go there. I believe that humans could experience themselves as being as great and as good as God is if they only stopped telling themselves that they cannot. We cannot be as great and as God and good as God is. We simply cannot. That is just plain hubris. I know you believe this, and I respect what you believe, but I'm wondering if it might not just be a matter of scale. I'm not following you on that. You lost me on that last turn. Well, I understand we cannot be as large as God. That would be impossible. A drop of the ocean is not the ocean. That's right. But it is the same as the ocean, simply in a smaller portion. So the drop and the ocean are the same stuff. And proportionate to its size, the drop can be as great as the ocean. To a microscopic life form, the drop may as well be the ocean. So we're talking here about nothing more than a proportion. But let me ask you a question. What do you think this world would be like if we did worship other people as if they were God? Do you think we'd have more wars or less? Do you think we'd have more arguments, more fights, more terror, more violence, or less? That isn't the point. It isn't? Then what is?
Hey, Linda,
Okay, folks, I'm just looking at the time.
Yeah, let's just stop there.
You want to pause? Okay.
I was going to say, Shabana, do you want to do a meditation?
Yes.
Okay.
Lord God, we're here now, excited, because we know that this is the time where our belief in ourselves, our limitless power and peace, our creativity, and our intention are honored. We're doing that here now. Sarah, Nanette, Anne, Laura, Linda, Angela, Mohan, Bhima, Mary, and I. We're doing it here now. We believe that, to quote Gandhi, we are the change we want to see. We see a healed world glued together with love, unity, kindness, compassion, and we thank you that we've pooled our energy to make this a reality. Amen. Oh, and I forgot to mention the Dalai Lama, who said that there are only 3 rules. I mean, Neil's got 7, but it's kindness, kindness, kindness. That's a good one. Amen. We're done.
Yep, that is a good one. Okay, thank you, Angela and Linda,
Thank
for
you,
reading.
Shabana.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
thank you, Shabana, for doing the
You're
meditation.
welcome. Thank you.
And we'll see
Thank
each
you.
other.
And I just want to add before we go, Ann Darby did send an email and say she was sorry she couldn't be here today. She's taking a class.
Okay.
Can
All
I
right.
can I just quickly say one thing that came up during Shabana's meditation,
Sure.
where you say, God, that be the change you want to be in the world. What came to me was be the love you want to see in the world. You know.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
All right. Be the change.
beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful meeting. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Goodbye.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Lots
Thank you,
of love.
everybody.
Lots of love.
Lots of love,
Bye.
and we'll see you next week.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.